to enter the Zoom. I want to remind you that Vote 411 is now available. Vote 411 can provide you with information on the candidates you will be voting for and has a printout feature so that you can print out a guide that you can then take to the polls to cast your vote. And now for tonight's forum. Good evening. I am Anitra Steele, Chair of the Forums Committee. Welcome to our forum for House Districts 15 and 56 for the August 6th primary election. This forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Kansas City, Jackson, Clay, Platte, and Cass counties. The League of Women Voters is a trusted grassroots, nonpartisan organization whose members do the hands-on work to safeguard democracy. While we neither endorse or oppose candidates or political parties, we are directly involved in sharing the important issues. Our mission is to empower voters and defend our democracy. We envision a democracy where every citizen has the knowledge, the right, the desire, and the confidence to participate. Our membership is open to everyone. I would like you to know the other League members volunteering with me. Elizabeth Darr is our moderator. Cheryl Barnes is the timekeeper, and our Zoom is monitored by Janelle Shue. The public has sent in the questions via the League's website that you will be hearing the answers for. Tonight, we welcome our moderator, Elizabeth Darr.
Thank you, Anitra. I'm delighted to join you for the House Districts 15 and 56 candidate forum. District 15 is in Clay County and 56 is in Cass County, so I think we'll have some different perspectives here tonight. We're hearing from the candidates running for the opportunity to represent their party on the general election ballot on November 5th. Missouri state representatives work alongside the governor to create laws and establish a state budget. Responsibilities include passing bills on public policy matters, setting levels for state spending, raising and lowering taxes, and voting to uphold or override gubernatorial votes. State reps are limited to 4 two-year terms, so you guys have to work really hard. Forums last approximately 90 minutes. I'll ask each candidate the same question, selected them from those submitted by the public. The order of candidate responses has been determined by random order, and each candidate will be given 90 seconds to respond to the question and 2 minutes for closing statements. All of the candidates running for these districts have been invited. We welcome the candidates participating in tonight's forum. We have Todd Burke and Pam Jenkins from District 56, and Greg Smith and Kenneth Jameson from District 15. This forum will be recorded and available on the League's webpage, lwvkc.org, and on YouTube. Just put LWVKC in the little query box and it'll come right up. Candidates, please answer the question asked and stick to the topic. There will be no rebuttals, but you may go back to an issue during your 2-minute closing remarks. Let us begin. Here's the tough question. Please introduce yourself and let us know your education and background and why you are running for the state legislature. And we're going to start with Kenneth.
Good evening. My name is Ken Jameson. I'm a Democrat running for State House District 15. I'd like to thank the League for facilitating this forum and the other candidates for participating. I'm running in District 15. That's primarily Gladstone and Oakview and some surrounding neighborhoods of Kansas City North. It's my home district. I was raised in Gladstone. Went to Meadowbrook Elementary School, Antioch Middle School, and Oak Park High School. I'm a husband and a stepfather to Benjamin, who's just turned 5, and we had his birthday trip down to Branson. I'm currently an attorney. I got my own law firm. My office is up in Liberty. I primarily do family law, divorces, child custody cases, and criminal offense work. Before I became an attorney, I served 4 years on active duty in the United States Marine Corps. In the Marine Corps, I had 2 jobs. The first job was communications. So you had Marines at point A and point B. I made sure those Marines could talk through radios, telephones, computers. And my second job, the most important job, was I was a platoon commander. So I led about 45, 50 Marines at any given time. I served 1 tour in Afghanistan, and I attained the rank of captain, and I earned an honorable discharge. Also, before I became an attorney, I spent 1 summer, the summer before my junior year of college, working in Haitian refugee camps, building houses. And the next summer, the summer before my senior year of college, I was a teacher in Africa. So I
Thank
taught.
you very much. Todd, let's hear from you. Oh, you're muted.
There you go.
It's okay to stay unmuted.
That's okay. So, hey, my name's Todd Burke, and I'm excited to be here tonight. Again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. And Jameson, thank you for your service. That's awesome. So I live in Raymore, Missouri. I am a retired teacher. I've taught 34 years in both public and private school setting. I have my wife, Becky, is currently a counselor here in the Raymore School District, Ray-Pec School District. Starting this year, she'll be a counselor at the middle school. So she's excited to be there. I have 3 children, all who are educators in different places, and 1 in Kansas and 2 in Missouri. I've taught in Mexico, Missouri, St. James, Missouri, retired from Francis House School District in St. Charles, Missouri. We moved to the Lee Summit area in 2017, where I took a job at Summit Christian Academy, where I was the head football coach at Summit Christian Academy for 6 years. And then I've recently retired from all of public and private education. And now I currently work for Fellowship of Christian Athletes as the football director for the Kansas City area. And really enjoying that job. So excited to be here tonight. And I wish some of our other candidates would have hopped on, but I'm glad that Pam and I are here to speak to District 56.
Thank you very much. Greg?
Hi. Also, along with the other candidates, thank you for putting this on. I think it's important to reach out to as many voters as possible and do it in a way that is either in person or like this. This is wonderful, and I know the technology has jumped since we all had to be inside for a few years not too long ago. So something we've all gotten used to. Like Kenneth, I'm a lifelong Gladstone resident. We went to some different schools. I went to St. Charles Borromeo for grade school, and then Oak Park High School. Graduated from Truman State University with a Bachelor of Science in History. And I currently work at the Ford plant in Claycomo. I'm a proud member of the United Auto Workers. My journey into this started with just volunteering on a whole bunch of different campaigns and causes. And all of that has led me to want to run.
Thank you very much. Pam?
Yes, Pam Jenkins Hatcher. And I'm running for District 56 for state representative, and that includes Belton and Raymore. I am your local District 56 representative from Belton, grew up in Belton, attended Gladden Elementary, Yoakum Junior High, and I'm a proud Belton Pirate from class of '85 at Belton High School. A lot of my teachers still live here in town. And I now am a proud resident of Raymore, along with my daughter and grandson, and my parents are still here. So we have 4 generations of Cass Countyans right here in my backyard. And I'm now a local business owner. I own Integrity Group Real Estate right here on 58 Highway. And I also am chairman of the Board of Adjustments for the city of Raymore. And I'm also a big advocate for economic development for both Raymore and Belton, as well as for the public school systems, both Belton and Raymore. I'm a large supporter for both foundations, both education foundations. And I also have 36 years experience in corporate America, as well as my own brokerage for the last 8 years of real estate, both in corporate America. I was an executive at Sprint for corporate real estate, as well as the chief of staff for QTS data centers. But what led me into politics, I'm not a career politician, but Kansas
Pam, I'm
City.
going to have to ask you to hold up on that. You'll have another opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
The second question is, what skills do you have to steer the legislature back to a functioning body after all the dysfunction of the last 2 years? And this time we'll start with Greg.
I think I'll start with that I've got firsthand experience with how Jefferson City has worked in the past. When I was in college, I had the opportunity to intern with a state representative, and getting to see the ins and outs and what works and what doesn't work. Now, this is a long time ago at this point. It was 2005 when I had that opportunity, and a lot of things have changed since. In 2005, there was still cooperation. There was still a meeting between and making compromises to make good legislation. And while that still happens, it is such a rarity now that I think need to make sure go back to doing it. Just because somebody has a different viewpoint doesn't mean you can't come to some sort of common ground. And we've gotten to where politics has become a team sport, and that is not the way it should be. Politics is about debate. Politics is about coming to find the common ground, and that's essentially what I think we need to do and get back to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pam?
Yes. What I believe is 36 years of experience in corporate America negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts leads you to believe to be able to work and negotiate both sides of the aisle. I've done that my entire career, is negotiating from both sides and coming up with a win-win. That was the first thing my mentor at Sprint taught me, was you can never win. You cannot squish the opponent down to the final last dime. You have to create a win-win for both sides. And that's what we have to do in Jeff City. I spent the last 2 years driving back and forth to Jeff City to protect my homestead. That was 2,640 feet from a proposed landfill, which I could never have imagined they would try to build based upon my experience in real estate. Yet that's how corrupt Jeff City is right now. And I wanted to make a difference, and I wanted to jump in with both feet, having no political experience whatsoever, but I have a lot of negotiation and a lot of compromising and a lot of understanding and being an ability to listen to people's issues. And I'm a terrific problem solver. I also have a very high skill set of financial acumen that I believe would bring a lot of ability to Jeff City that is highly needed. So that we could get I-49 expanded from County Line Road all the way down to 7, which our district desperately needs. Thank you.
Thank you. And Todd?
Yeah, 34 years in education brings on lots of skills as a coach and a teacher and as an administrator. Worked with a lot of different types of families, a lot of different situations, a lot of different crisis situations. And, you know, it was interesting when you talk to different people, right? We all want the same thing. We all want what's best for our families, what's best for our communities. And so it's all about relationships. It's about building relationships with people from not only your own party, but also getting to know people from the other side of the aisle and listening to their concerns. But at the end of the day, you know, I think my biggest strength is going to be just working hard to listen to our community. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is people have lost trust in our political leaders and our political leaders. And so we have to gain back that trust and listen to them and take those ideas back to Jefferson City and see what common threads there are with other legislatures in the House, and work together on problems that will affect not only just our community, but Missouri at large. And I think when we build that coalition, I think you're going to find that as representatives, we're going to work together a lot better.
Thank you. Ken?
Yeah, as an attorney, I negotiate as a living on a daily basis. I negotiate with opposing counsel, with prosecutor, defense counsel, pro se parties. I got to deal with people from all backgrounds and all demographics, and I do that as my job on a daily basis. And also, when I was in the Marine Corps as a platoon commander, I was 23-year-old boot second lieutenant in charge of about 45, 50 Marines, most of whom were much older than I was, and most of them had multiple combat deployments. And I was quote unquote in charge. So if I went in there as a 23-year-old who had 1 year of experience in the Marine Corps trying to boss these people around, throw my rank around, they would have eaten me alive. So what I did was I listened and learned. I kept my mouth shut for probably 6 months, and I just listened and learned from the Marines who were there before me, who knew more about the Marine Corps in their pinky than I did in my entire body. And I think they respected that, they appreciated that. And at a young age, I learned how to work with people in very high intense pressure situations with people from all backgrounds and experiences to accomplish the same mission. And I think those skills learned at a very young age would translate well down in Jeff City.
Thank you very much. Governor Parson recently visited Kansas City and met with area mayors and county officials to discuss options for keeping the Chiefs and the Royals in Missouri. Would you agree with using state funds to keep the teams in Missouri? Why or why not? And we'll start with Pam.
Well, as a 56-year season ticket holder, I might be a bit biased on that one. It depends on what the negotiation is. I've already stated that if Kansas tries to sway them away, I will not be renewing my tickets. So I will keep my coveted 56-year season tickets where they're at Arrowhead. I grew up at Arrowhead, and I'll stay right where they're at. If it's the appropriate negotiation, which I have done for years and years, I'll keep an open mind to it. But I don't think only Jackson County taxpayers should carry the whole burden when the fans come from all over. So if the state of Missouri needs to look at something that is appropriate, I'd be willing to look at something. I'm not saying that Governor Parsons needs to walk in with an open checkbook to keep him from going to Kansas.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Greg?
I think one of the reasons that the proposal failed in Jackson County was it just wasn't the right proposal. There were a few things that people were concerned about. One was location, especially for the Royal Stadium. And there didn't seem to be as much transparency in the process as there should have been, or that the voters wanted. And I think if, again, I agree with Pam that if the state comes in, then it needs to be the right proposal. They need to listen to the communities that are going to be impacted. And that all needs to happen before a decision's made, before a proposal happens. We all love having these teams here. And yes, there is a huge economic boon to having two professional teams in our area. And to lose that would be unfortunate. But again, it's just like a politician. It's got to be the right proposal in the right place at the right time. And just like it has to be the right person in the right place, right? So I would agree completely with Pam. I'd look at the proposals and see what works and what doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
Similar to Pam, I'm a diehard Chiefs fan, and I remember growing up, but every time there's after a game, the sports page, there'd be photos of the Chiefs game and articles about the Chiefs game. I cut them out, I put them up on my wall. I memorize all the stat lines of all the players, all the Chiefs fans. So yeah, I'm a little biased. I'm a diehard Chiefs fan since, gosh, 4 or 5. But there's got to be a better process. There's got to be transparency in the process. There's got to be better involvement from civic leaders in the community, how it's going to impact the community. And we can't go in there with an open checkbook, but the cost benefit analysis, in my opinion, weighs in favor of keeping the chiefs and the royals here, because there is a positive economic impact for keeping these teams here. But again, we can't go in there with an open checkbook.
Thank you. Todd, are you a Chiefs fan too?
I have a son-in-law who he absolutely loves the Chiefs. So I don't think it's the state's responsibility to be involved in helping the Chiefs or the Royals stay in Jackson County. I think that's a Jackson County issue. I think there's way too many other places where our money could be used on infrastructure, roads, teacher salaries, a lot of other things that we should be using our taxpayer dollars for before we even think about using them to help build a stadium and move the Chiefs. So, or the Royals, either one.
Thank you. Okay. Sometimes legislators will need to consider bills concerning complex issues with which they have little prior experience. Under those circumstances, what sources will you seek out? And this time we'll start with Ken.
Yeah, and again, I hate to keep bringing up the Marine Corps experience, but it was a pivotal moment in my life, and it's seared in my subconscious. It stayed with me. But I was involved in communications. I'm sorry, my dog's barking. Someone's at the door, I think. So I got a pit bull mix I got from the pet project, and he loves barking at the door. Neighbor's friends, my stepson's neighbor friend is at the door, I think. No, I mean, in the Marine Corps, again, I was dealing with communications, very technical equipment, and no one person was a subject matter expert of this complicated technical equipment. So you had to find out, this guy knew how to solve this part of the problem. This person over here knew how to solve the other part of the problem. And you had to get these people in the same room to accomplish the same mission. So you got to be humble. You got to know, you don't know what you don't know. And you got to have just take the initiative and have the determination to find the right people to educate you on this issue and how to solve the problem.
Thank you. Todd, what are your trusted sources?
Yeah, I would echo some of the things he said. I would definitely want to find experts in the field of whatever that is that I don't feel like I'm an expert at, and either talk to them personally or read things that they've written, research. A lot of research goes on in this job, in areas that you don't understand, or the minutia of the things that are going on. Going back to my community, finding trusted members of my community. That's one way you can bridge that gap with your community, right? Is going back to your community and, like you said, being humble and saying, hey, I don't understand everything there is in this. If it's a law enforcement issue, talking to your sheriff, talking to your police chiefs, building those connections and that trust between those people and empowering them to help you solve this problem from a local perspective, I think is a huge piece of it. And then reading, a lot of reading, and reading more than one source, right? And reading things from both sides, getting multiple perspectives. Don't just read something that you're going to agree with. Read something you might not agree with and challenges you a little bit. And then at the end of the day, pray. That's probably my biggest source on a lot of things is go to prayer and ask for guidance through my prayer life.
Thank you very much. Pam, what are your sources?
Through my years of experience in real estate, I was responsible for the entire nation's construction of network for Sprint. I have a global resource, but I would definitely reach out through multiple sources, but that's all I've ever done has been a problem solver. I never thought I'd hear the word SCIF before in my entire life in public forum until Donald J. Trump took some documents to his house in Mar-a-Lago and wouldn't return them. I built those SCIFs where those documents were supposed to be stored at. And I signed non-disclosure agreements, which have all been released now because those documents were never to be released from a SCIF that I had built. And when I was asked to build a SCIF, I had no idea what I was supposed to build. but I went and researched it and found out from the best construction companies across the country on how to build the best SCIFs across the country. And I did so. And they, to this day, are still standing and some of the best constructed facilities in the United States to hold the top secret documents for the United States. And I built the Sprint's data centers and labs, as well as the country's largest data centers, which encompass about 40 to 50 football fields. So if something needs to be figured out and resolved, I have the resources and the problem-solving skill sets to figure that out. And I have historically done that.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Craig?
I have a love of learning, and my wife, in fact, says that my brain's kind of an information sponge. Just it comes in and some of it never leaves. But with that, you also have to recognize that you don't know everything. And when you don't know about something, you go to like the other folks have said, you go to the resources that you have at hand. But I think what a lot of folks miss too is they need to go and talk to the people that are going to be potentially impacted by what is happening. So it may be a group that you've never had any contact with. I remember one of the first projects I helped was going down to Jefferson City and helping the restarted Poor People's Campaign. And there have been periods of time where, you know, my wife and I, we definitely had to pinch the pennies and watch the budget. But to see some of these folks that have just never had the opportunities. And so getting that new experience showed me that you do have to listen to literally everybody. And you can think that a law or a piece of legislation will have a certain impact, but unless you've gone and talked to the folks that it's actually going to impact, you don't have the whole story. And that's one of the more important things that I would focus on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is the next question. With the attempted assassination of Donald Trump on Saturday, national attention has turned again to the ready availability of guns and to gun violence in particular. What efforts will you make in the Missouri legislature to curb gun violence, keeping in mind that more than 50% of gun deaths are due to suicide? I will start this time with Todd.
Yeah, we have lots of gun laws on the books. We need to make sure we're enforcing those laws that are already on the books. And I think it's a responsibility for gun owners. And gun owners are, for the most part, very awesome at this, but making sure your guns are stored safely, making sure that they're not accessible to the minors that, you know, may have, you know, happen onto one, make sure they're locked up. But we don't need any more gun laws. We don't need any more gun laws on the book. We need to reinforce the ones that we have.
Thank you. Greg?
Totally agree on the enforcement. And in fact, I think one of the things I would work towards is making sure that Missouri goes back to cooperating with law enforcement agencies, federal law enforcement agencies. We've definitely had some oddball things happen in Jefferson City where some jurisdictions no longer want to follow some of the federal gun laws. So we definitely need to make sure that we're enforcing all the laws that are out there. I do think that there are also some tweaks, and this is coming from one of those responsible firearm owners that Todd was talking about myself. We do need some other things, and it's simple things. It's making sure background checks are being applied equally to every sale. It's things, you know, maybe extending the waiting period. A lot of the folks that I've talked to that are even Republican gun owners, they wouldn't mind waiting an extra week or even a month. And most responsible gun owners will give you that response. The other thing, though, that we need to really focus on, and this is across the board, but it's also important for gun safety, is we need better access to mental health resources. And we also need to get rid of the stigma of actually going and taking advantage of mental health services.
Thank you. Pam?
Yes, I couldn't echo and agree with Greg more on supporting mental health and getting rid of the stigma. That is where a large problem is. I am not in support of adding more gun laws to the books. We have plenty for the law enforcement to try to track as it is today. We need to provide more support to law enforcement. I'm not opposed if someone were to bring something on some of the automatic rifles or the assault weapons or the bump stocks that are doing the mass shootings, but I'm not going to be the one to bring that forward. I was joking with someone today, as a matter of fact, about gun safety back when I was growing up on a 60-acre farm with my grandparents, when my grandfather was scared to death of snakes, was, Pammy, run to the house and get the 45. And as I was running out the back door, my grandmother said, be sure and point that away from your feet as you're running. I mean, that was my gun safety class. So, you know, I have a shooting range right here on my own property. So I'm not looking for additional gun laws. I am looking for gun owners to be responsible. I am looking for to provide more for law enforcement, but I sure would like to see that our law enforcement has better guns than the people on the streets who are taking out an assassination shot at Trump. That's where I stand on gun laws.
Thank you very much.
Don't come on my property after midnight unannounced, though. You might find yourself centered between two eyes with something, not with my husband holding it, but with me holding it. So, which
Okay,
most people would not expect.
we have been forewarned. Thank you very much for that. Ken, how about you?
First off, I don't agree with former President Trump on all the issues, but political violence is never the issue. And I'm happy to hear that he's okay, relatively speaking. Saturday was an American tragedy that should never have occurred. And I'm glad that he's doing okay, relatively speaking. And I'm sorry and thinking about everybody impacted at that rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday. Mental health and enforcement are major issues. So as an attorney, I do a lot of juvenile court work. So in juvenile court here in Clay County, if a juvenile commits a crime, they're still entitled to representation. And in the past, I would say in the past 2 years, I had one case where a 14-year-old teenager bought a gun on the black market from his cell phone, and he didn't know how to handle the weapon, and the weapon accidentally discharged, and he shot his twin brother and killed him. I had another case in juvenile court, a similar case, a teenager purchased a weapon on the black market from his cell phone, and I can't remember the exact circumstances. I don't know if he was trying to clean it or if he couldn't operate it correctly or handle it correctly. And there's another person who died. So yes, I think enforcement needs to be taken a hard look at, and especially black market guns and their accessibility. As a criminal defense attorney, most of the police reports that come across my desk, very few involve people who purchased firearms legally and then committed a crime. The vast majority
And
are
I'm
police
going to
reports.
stop you there. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're over time.
Sorry.
Maybe we can come back to that later. There are 2 constitutional amendments, both sponsored by the legislature, on the August 6th ballot. The next 2 questions concern these ballot measures. Amendment 1, which states, shall the Missouri Constitution be amended to allow places where individual corporations, organizations, and associations provide childcare outside of the child's home to be exempt from property tax? This is intended to make childcare more available, which would support the well-being of children, families, the workforce, and society as a whole. State government entities estimate the state's blind pension fund would have annual lost revenue of up to $400,000. Local governments expect an unknown fiscal impact. What is your position on Amendment 1? Todd, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Well, I think anytime we can get rid of some taxes, I think that's a great cause. We need affordable healthcare. I know that as a grandfather of a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, I know the amount of money that healthcare takes up for my daughter and her husband. It's more than a house payment for them. Anything we can do to help ease some of that burden for affordable health care, if we're relieving some of that property tax burden, I need to study that one a little bit more, because I'm not sure how about we relieve the property tax burden of the people who are actually needing the care, the families that need the care, to, increase the child care tax credit, so they can use that to pay for childcare, I think would even be a better idea. But anything we can do to alleviate the cost for childcare, I'm a big proponent of that. So.
Thank you. Ken?
As someone who's paid a lot of money for daycare, and would like that expense to be relieved to some degree, my first instinct is to say yes. But the caveat there is there's an unknown fiscal impact. So before I commit to something, I'd like to know what the cost and how it's going to affect the community and the constituents. So I love the concept, but the means to achieve that end state, I think more facts need to be given.
Thank you. Greg?
I have barely glanced over the amendment, but to my eyes, it does look good as far as trying to encourage potentially either more competition or to open more daycare centers, like make it easier for somebody to open a daycare center or to run one out of their house. And while I think that's a grand idea, we just need to make sure that the right oversight's in place. You don't want a situation where you potentially have pop-up daycares.
Emergency services.
Sorry, I'm getting an Amber Alert. I apologize.
Oh. But no, you don't want these pop-up places coming out of the blue offering cheap healthcare that may not have the oversight behind it that they need to. So I think I would need to see what kind of oversight would still be in place, or what increase in oversight could be there before I would vote on that kind of amendment, or consider voting yes on it, I guess. But I totally agree also that we need to look at ways to lessen the burden on the family, and maybe not necessarily business or the institute. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam, what's your position on Amendment 1?
Well, conceptually, to the individual who doesn't understand real estate taxes very well, it sounds like a great idea, but it's not. Because these daycare facilities are being taxed at a commercial rate if it's not an in-home daycare. And we cannot guarantee, and that's the reason the Missouri Blind Pension is saying they're going to lose $400,000, and we don't know the financial impact across the board to the state of Missouri. So I work with a lot of daycare facility owners. I've helped purchase them, I've helped sell them. And the problem is going to be that you give these facilities tax exemption on their real estate taxes, but that doesn't automatically mean they're going to roll them back in and give discounts to the people who need them, which are the parents. So I'd rather see us give the child care credits to the parents themselves, not the daycare operator. Let's work out something else, some other type of program for the daycare operator if it's too expensive. But the real expense is not the real estate tax. The real expense is the labor. We can't get good workers in the daycare facilities because you're only paying them $15 an hour. And then they get a $16 an hour raise, and then they go to 17. You have such a high turnover that we're not getting good daycare services. It's not the commercial real estate tax that's hurting the daycare. It's your labor that's hurting it, and the operating costs. That's not your real estate tax. That amendment is not going to help your daycare problem, because it's not going to be a trickle down to those parents. If you want to help those parents with daycare costs, let's give them a child care credit.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we have another amendment coming up on our ballots next month. This is Amendment 4. Shall the Missouri Constitution be amended to authorize laws passed before December 31st, 2026 that increase minimum funding for a police force established by a state board of police commissioners to ensure such police force has additional resources to serve its communities. This would authorize a law passed in 2022 increasing required funding by the city of Kansas City for police department requests from 20% of general revenue to 25%, an increase of $38,743 and some more dollars in there, but $38 million. Through the city previously provided though the city previously provided that level of funding voluntarily. No other state or local government entities estimate costs or saving. What is your position on Amendment 4? And we'll start with Greg.
As Ken had mentioned, District 15 does incorporate some parts of Kansas City, not a ton, but some parts. But in general, I think that the city of Kansas City and the communities within the city know what their needs are and know how they want their police. And this is no offense to our rural folks, but somebody where I went to college in Kirksville isn't going to understand the same kinds of issues that are going on in Kansas City. And policing is not something that you just throw money at and then it gets better. You have to make sure it's for the right programs, right training, and those are all things that the localities, the municipalities need to decide on their own. And so I would be against this amendment as it is. And as was mentioned, the city is already providing funding at that level anyway. So this seems to me to be an unnecessary amendment to the Constitution. If it's already happening, number one, and number two, the city knows what's best for itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Ken, how do you feel about this?
Well, number one, I think I wish the city of Kansas City could govern its own police force. I think it's a shame that it's still up to the state of Missouri, but we got to deal with reality as it is. I'm always hesitant to object to additional funding from law enforcement. One of my main priorities is to keep our neighborhood safe. But one major issue that I like to deal with and think about is here in the Northland. Here in the Northland, we got a lot of neighborhoods that are part of Kansas City, and they pay a lot of taxes downtown to downtown Jackson County, to City Hall. But we don't get an adequate return on investment. We pay a lot of taxes, but we don't get a lot of services. They don't plow our roads as much as they should. They don't send enough police squad cars up here as they should. So I favor providing additional funds to law enforcement, but I would really emphasize that we deserve our fair share of services up here in the Northland.
Fair enough. Thank you. Pam?
I agree wholeheartedly with Ken. The first statement is the city of Kansas City, Missouri needs to get their act together, and they need to be responsible for their own law enforcement. The state shouldn't be managing this, and you shouldn't have to have a House or a Senate having to oversee their budget. So that's number one. Number two is, before I would ever even vote in first of all, second, I support law enforcement. I do not want to shortchange them. I have a lot of friends who are Kansas City police officers. However, Mayor Quentin Lucas has got a lot of explaining to do as to how he would ever spend that money and how I would want to have it micromanaged, because just as Ken stated, they can't even keep track of their trash costs under control, and we're going to have to build another landfill. So I sure am not going to write another check to them from the state when they can't even manage their current budget. They obviously have no one that can do financial acumen and budget, balance any budgets over there, and they keep playing the shell game with their money. And this is just another example of it. So right now, no, I'm not in favor of that amendment. I'm all for supporting law enforcement, but not just giving money when Kansas City, Missouri can't budget their money.
Thank you, Pam. Maybe we can get our timer back. Is there an issue with the timer?
still have about
I won't
5
take a
seconds.
minute and 30 seconds.
Okay, you won't take a minute through.
I won't take a minute and 30
From
seconds.
Todd, and we'll finish this
Yeah,
up.
so, being this is an amendment that really just affects Kansas City, right? Like you said, the effects on all the other municipalities would be net zero. Wouldn't affect the dollars given to or taken from the other municipalities. Is that what I think that's what I heard you say correctly there. Kansas City has a crime problem. It doesn't take, you have to watch TV very long to realize that they need more police. They need more law enforcement officers. And so, because when the crime in Kansas City grows, that spills out into our counties. As Kenneth was saying, not having the enforcement up in his area, adequate enforcement up there. So if this will provide more law enforcement officers, and I think that's what it should be earmarked for, is more law enforcement officers, then yes, I would be for allowing them to get more money for Kansas City law enforcement, for some of that money to be redirected to law enforcement is what I'm hearing is the budget would increase for them. It would be transferred money. It wouldn't be any new money. It would be transferred money that they would have to provide for the law enforcement agency.
Thank you. So this is just a quick follow-up, yes or no question. Do you support returning control of the Kansas City Police Department to Kansas City? We'll go back the same order. Greg?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Todd?
Yeah, I'm for local control. So yeah, I think they need to take care of their own local control and control that.
Okay, thank you. Several bills were filed in the legislature this year to eliminate property tax. Would you support this? And how would you replace that lost revenue for municipalities? Pam, we'll start this time with you.
Yes, I absolutely would support that. And there's lots of different ways to look at that. I think there's a lot of loopholes going on right now. Missouri, though, currently has a surplus of cash. And specifically in District 56, we have had a budgeted line item to expand our highway where we are currently have a log jam and is being backed up clear into Grandview, the adjoining town. And it's causing many accidents and people are being killed on our highway here. So without understanding the full state budget and understanding what's going on, it's hard for me to understand exactly what the impact of that financial real estate tax is. But I certainly have a lot of different ideas on how to do that, because the governor is doing line item vetoes right now in our district on those road improvements.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Todd?
Yeah, did you say they were personal property or real estate?
No, this is real estate. Well, it says to eliminate property tax. So that
Right.
is.
So I didn't know if it was personal property. Yeah, we need to really try to cut taxes as much as we can, but we also can't cut services. So that's a fine line. A lot of my opponents are saying that they're going to eliminate personal property tax, eliminate real estate tax. I think our taxes we spend in our local community are some of the best taxes that we do spend. I would rather eliminate, our federal taxes and our state income tax before we start eliminating taxes that fund our police, fund our firemen, fund our teachers, and those kind of things. So, I would have to take a close look at seeing how it affected the services to, those services to our schools, services to our police, services to our ambulance district, our hospitals. If that money's taken, how do you replace it? There's a lot of nuances there that is, it's a very general saying, cut taxes. That's easy to say. And it's a nice campaign slogan. And I would love to cut taxes, trust me. But we have to pay our bills as well. And so there's that fine line and just common sense of making sure that we pay our bills, take care of our community. And, you know, and then when we have frivolous spending, we need to cut that. That's where we need to cut at. So that would be my answer.
Thank you. Ken, what's your position?
If I could just copy and paste what Todd said, I'll do that because I think he hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I mean, I'm always in favor of cutting taxes. You can't do it too much. You don't want to be, similar to what happened in the Brownback era in the state of Kansas. And Todd was exactly right. There's a fine line of cutting taxes and the cost benefit analysis in terms of the services. So it's a fine line, and there is a surplus. But yeah, my wife and I just going over our records and accounting and taking care of our own house and our own finances. Yeah, property taxes are crazy right now. And I'm sure I'm not the only one on this panel or the only one watching or the only one who feels that way. So I think a lot of people right now listening can empathize with my pain. So if we can relieve the tax burden on individuals and families, I'm all for that. But again, Todd's right. It's a fine line.
Thank you. And Greg?
I hate to sound like a broken record, but absolutely, you can't cut taxes at the expense of services. And so, yeah, we need more details about where if there is a shortfall, where that's getting made up from. Now, of course, we could debate all day about where additional taxes could come from if you're going to cut something like property taxes. But I think there needs to be more learned and more researched about that topic where the legislature can make any. I think the impacts would be something that they wouldn't expect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we rebuttal on that?
No,
Okay,
you can in your closing statement.
okay.
Sorry.
Oh,
We
that's
have to
right.
have
Just
all
trying to
those-
understand.
How did the Missouri laws which ban abortion affect medical care in Missouri's emergency rooms, hospitals, clinics, and physician and nurse training in Missouri? How do these situations affect Missouri residents? And we'll start with Pam.
Start with the female. Okay, well.
It wasn't intentional, I promise.
Okay. Well, it's very well known that I am pro-choice. I don't think a lot of people fully understand what these changes have made. It has caused a lot of grave concern. I don't think a lot of men in Jefferson City understand what a DNC is. I know they all haven't had one, that's for sure. I can raise my hand and say I have had one when I was 16 weeks pregnant when the OBGYN told me that my baby was not viable on my 1-year anniversary. So when these laws are being changed and you're going into an ER in excruciating pain and you're hemorrhaging and you no longer can have the emergency care that you need, and you're being told, luckily I was in Lee Summit and would be told that I have to drive over to Overland Park, Kansas to receive the medical care that I need. And I had the financial means to be able to do that. That's one thing. But women nowadays in the state of Missouri will not have that ability if they're in Columbia or if they're up, in the Boot Hill or somewhere that they cannot get to a state to make those choices. I don't think government has any business making a woman's health care choice.
Thank you. Todd?
Yeah. Yeah. Abortion is a word that evokes a lot of strong emotion. And, my mom was an unwed, recently divorced mother of 3, 2 months pregnant with me when she met who would be my dad for the rest of my life. And I'm really thankful that she decided that my life was worth the embarrassment or, other feelings she might have felt. And she decided that, that she would obviously decide to have me. So I'm very thankful for that. We have to protect life from the womb to the tomb. And my faith tells me that life begins at conception. And I believe that we have to protect life, you know, in any way we can. And I understand the life of the mother is also very important. And I know that's an exception in our law currently now. And so I like the law the way it is.
Thank you. Greg, what's your feeling?
I think I can wrap it up succinctly for myself in that I am endorsed by Planned Parenthood. I'm also adopted from birth. Neither of my parents are my biological parents. And I echo what Todd said. I am glad that my birth mother decided to go ahead and bring me into the world and knew that she couldn't give me the life maybe wanted to. Conversely, though, the way that we have constructed these things and the way we, again, let our emotions kind of get the better of us sometimes with these things, there has to be the option. These are decisions that need to be made between the patient and the provider. Full stop. I don't think the government has any role. We're a secular nation built with a secular government, and we can't let our religion, our emotions govern the laws that we pass. And these are medical decisions, again, that frankly just need to stay with the patient and the provider. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Ken, you want to give us your feelings? Ken, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I support reproductive freedom. I don't believe the government should tell anybody, especially a woman, what they should do with their body. And it's a medical decision between a woman and her doctor. It's their individual choice, and the government should stay at the bedroom. Full stop.
Thank you. Next question. What approach will you take towards funding of K through 12 education? And this time we'll start with Greg.
It's an interesting question, especially for those of us that live in, the Kansas City or metropolitan area. We tend to have decent schools. Obviously, Kansas City has struggled at the time. But what I think we fail to see is that the answer to a struggling school district, whether it's a rural district or a district that's in a city, is not to cut their funding or not to penalize them, because obviously there's some resource assistance that district misses. So I think we really need to take a hard look at our funding formulas and making sure that we're not leaving the inner city districts behind or the rural districts. Both have trouble with teacher retention. Both have trouble keeping their facilities in order. So we need to make sure that the districts that need the most help are getting the help that they need. And I think the way to do that is to go and adjust the funding formula. And that's where I would start. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken, how would you finance K through 12 education?
I did it again. I had myself on mute again. I'm a proud product of public schools, Meadowbrook, Antioch, and Oak Park High School. I was a teacher in this for a summer in Kenya, in a slum, that's Kibera, the second biggest slum on the continent of Africa. And then I spent another month and a half in a rural Maasai land in rural Kenya. Todd thanked me for my service earlier. I want to thank him because I represent a lot of teachers, and they come in, we talk about their case, and then we also just talk about their lives and their family and their job. And teachers and counselors and janitors and administrators, school cafeteria workers, they make sacrifices that people don't even realize on a daily basis, day in and day out. So veterans don't have a monopoly on service. Teachers or public educators provide a valuable service to our community, and they should be applauded. And I would be a strong advocate for public education down in Jeff City.
Thank you. Todd?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for your kind words. Yeah, 34 years in education. I'm a retired public school teacher. There's no secret to that. It makes me a moderate from what I'm told in my own party, and that's okay. I'm going to support our teachers. I do agree. You know, the foundation formula for education probably needs to be revisited. It has been a long time since we've taken a look at that, and we probably need to look at that and just make sure our dollars are being appropriated correctly. I think we also need to make sure that we keep local control make sure our schools have local control. And so most of those dollars that schools get come from the local taxing district, right? Personal property tax and real estate taxes and stuff. And so, you know, we need to continue to be very diligent with our dollars, make sure we're spending them very wisely. But I'm excited to know our teachers got a raise across the board. There are some questions on how our rural school districts are going to possibly fund that, you know, down the road. You know, as state monies start to dwindle, as our state budget our surplus starts to dwindle. But we have to keep educating our kids, our number one priority. In our Republican platform, educating students is one of the top priorities of our platform. And I will continue to work hard to make sure our schools stay great. We have great schools in Ray-Pec and Belton, and we want to continue to keep those.
Thank you very much. Pam,
Yes, I'd like to fund them 110%, because we can't even fund them 100% right now. I'm a product of a public education system. My children are products of the public education system, and so is my grandson. My parents are as well. I'm a big proponent of the local public education system, and we aren't doing enough for them. I am not a proponent. Do not support school vouchers. There's no ifs, ands, or means about it. I do not support it, and I do not think the public education system is currently getting the transportation money that they need. We used to fund it 100%, and then the state of Missouri voted in lotteries, we voted in cannabis, and we voted in one other thing, I apologize, I just forgot it. And all that was supposed to go to education. When that came to the voters and they asked us to vote on that all these years, we thought that was going above and beyond. Well, instead, what the state did was they replaced it. They took that tax and they gave it to the schools, but then they held back from the general fund, and they're doing something else with the shell game down at Jeff City. Well, instead of being 47th in the state, as Todd Burke mentioned, yeah, we got a pay raise, but we were 47th in the nation. And so, yeah, we came up on starting pay, but we're still so low. We should be number one or number two with the lottery and the sales tax and all of these extra monies coming from cannabis and all these other things. Why are our schools not being funded 110% at that? We should have the best education systems.
thank you.
Thank you.
This next question dwells in the land of fantasy. If you could change 3 Missouri state laws, which would you change? And
Wow.
then to what? 3 laws. And we'll start with Ken.
Ooh. Where should I begin? No, this one thing that I deal with this in my profession, again, juvenile court. So juvenile court, if a mom and dad abuse their child, or a parent, you know, a mom gives birth to a baby and the mom has meth or heroin in the system, or the dad is beating on the child, they go to juvenile court, and the judge will place the child with grandma, uncle, or foster family if they can't find a blood relative. And they'll say, mom or dad, you got to get clean or sober. Dad or mom, you got to do DV classes. You got to prove you're working. You got a safe home for the kids. You got to engage in treatment services. And basically, they're going to say, you got about a year to do that, X, Y, Z. And if you prove you're safe for these kids, we'll give your kids back. But if you don't do that, X, Y, Z, in about a year and a half, maybe 2, we're going to terminate your parental rights. And the foster family or grandma or uncle can adopt a kid, and your parental rights will be terminated as if you've never existed. I cannot count how many times parents have been terminated multiple times. So they have a kid. Hey, bud, what's going on?
Speaking of,
Sorry, guys. Benjamin, my stepson's in.
hi, Benjamin.
Hey, bud, what's going on? While we're talking about this issue, you don't need to hear about this. But
Yeah.
I've seen multiple parents go through the system and be terminated on multiple children. So it's a fantasy. It's just something I have to deal with on a daily basis. But something's got to change to where you can't do this to children over and over and over again. And you fail to participate in services to rectify your behavior, and you do it over and over again, and children are suffering because of it.
Thank you. Greg, what laws would you change?
I think one would be to repeal the draconian reproductive health laws. That would be number one on my list. Number two on my list would probably have to be to make sure that we fully protect everyone, regardless of your chosen profession. You need to be able to form a union if you want to. You need to be able to have protections so that you can bargain for your pay or your contract, and make sure that we're not passing anything that impedes on it. The third thing I think would be to, this one's a tough one, but I think that the third one along the same vein is raising minimum wage, but doing it in a responsible way, so that we make sure our small business owners can still thrive. I think there's creative ways we can do that. I would want minimum wage to be much higher than it is now and much more quick than it is now. But I think we can be creative with our taxes, if you will, and make sure that our small business owners aren't adversely impacted, making sure that everybody makes a living. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam, what three laws would you change?
Well, I'm 2 out of 3 with Greg. Reproductive rights and unions. I'm right with you there, buddy, all the way. And the third one will be changing the law, however it is that it's written. It's on how the money is recovered by the state for the lottery, the cannabis, and gambling was my third one. When we passed those laws for all 3 of those, that money was supposed to go to education. Somehow down at Jeff City, they are taking that money and giving it to public education, but then in the other hand, they're pulling back the general fund. They need to fund it the way they used to with the general fund, and then the lottery, the cannabis, and the gambling needs to be layered on top, because that's the reason it was voted in. I don't play the lottery. I take that back. When it's really, really high and I lived in corporate America or worked in corporate America, I gave my dollar because I didn't want to be the only one showing up on Monday morning. But I don't play the lottery, I don't do cannabis, and I don't gamble, so they're not getting my money. But a lot of people are doing it in Missouri. So let's take that money and it needs to be layered on top for our education, and we wouldn't have an education problem in Missouri. I right now am subsidizing a building for a nonprofit for SPED, 91 SPED kids with behavioral issues from 26 public schools in the Kansas City metro area, because the public school system cannot hire the counselors and the behavioral specialists that they need. So those 26 school districts bus their kids to my building, and I subsidize that program $300,000 a year because our public school system cannot provide those children the services that they need. We have a public education problem in this state. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Todd, you got some different ideas?
Yeah, I do. This is a very hard question because, I just, probably, I don't think about this a whole lot, I guess. I maybe should think about it more. All the little fees and the licensing fees that we have to pay, let's get rid of those, like a fishing license and a hunting license and all those fees that, those little fees that just nickel and dime people to death, right? I would get rid of those. We have such a big teacher shortage, right? And there's a law that teachers can't go back to work in public school once they've started, and they've rescinded that during COVID a little bit, but now it's back in place. I would just get rid of that. If teachers, once they've separated from their district for, the amount of time that they're required to do, let them go work for a different district, because we have such a shortage of teachers, and those are veteran teachers. They would be a big asset to, I think, our shortage and help out that. And then, we need to increase some, and this is, you said it was fantasy, so I'm having fun with it. We need to increase the speed limit on some of our external roads, man. 35 miles an hour on this road out here on County Line Road out here is absolutely crazy. I know it makes a lot of money for our law enforcement, but man, you get caught really quick, and Pam knows what I'm talking about. 35 miles an hour, it just doesn't seem like it's a snail's pace. So
You must have made more contributions than me lately, Todd.
I'm helping law enforcement out.
Okay. We're almost at the end of our evening, and you will have your 2-minute closing statement, but I'm going to give you your 90 seconds to ask yourself the question that I haven't asked you that you wish I had.
Wow.
And we're going to start with you, Todd. And I promise this is a random rotation.
Asking yourself the question, probably the question you would wish you to ask me was, why am I the only Republican on this panel? Right. And so I have 2 other people in my race, Michael Davis and Ryan Johnson, and they chose not to be here, and that's up to them. But I will never miss an opportunity to speak to my constituents. My job is to serve everybody that is in my elected area. And so I want them to be able to hear my heart. I want them to be able to hear my ideas. I want them to be able to just get a sense of who I am and understand that I spent 34 years serving others and helping others get better. And that's been my life. And I will continue in this job. I feel like that's what this job is all about, is making people's lives better. And if they elect me as their representative in District 56, I will work my tail off to communicate with them, let them know what's going on, bi-weekly newsletters, let them know what the bills were, what we voted on, why I voted the way I voted, communicating back to them, building trust back with our politicians, because people don't trust politicians. I've been door to door, and as soon as I say I'm running for office, they say, "Oh, you're a politician." I said, "Not yet. I will be soon, but not yet." And so, yeah. So that's probably the question I would like, you to ask me.
But we especially appreciate that you were here with us tonight.
Thank you.
Pam, what do you wish I'd asked you?
Well, I want to finish answering the very first question. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because they were going to build a landfill 2,640 feet from me. I'm not a career politician. I'm a mom and a grandma. And I bought a 32-acre farm so that my kids could build here and be with me with my grandchildren. And when I found that out and spent the last 2 years driving back and forth to Jeff City, I found out just how corrupt Jeff City really was. And I decided to jump in with both feet, because my love language is service. And I didn't feel like I could stand on the sidelines and complain if I wasn't willing to raise my hand and jump in the deep end and be willing to do something about it. I know nothing about politics. All I learned was the last 2 years, I had no representation for Raymore or Belton down in Jeff City. And I don't like what I see when I look down there, and I don't like what I see when I'm looking around at some of the races. And when I'm going door to door and I hear that, well, I can't vote for you because you're a Republican. Well, we had a House down there that was all Republican. We had a Senate that was all Republican, and we had a governor that was Republican. And we had Republicans that brought our bills forward, and we had Republicans that filibustered us. And it still costs the city of Raymore and my constituents $4 million of our hard-earned tax dollars to pay off the landfill developer, so that we don't have a landfill 2,000 feet from my house. So that's why I'm running.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Ken, where did I fall down? What should I ask you?
First off, if Todd and Pam, if you get speeding tickets for driving too fast on those county roads,
Not me, Todd.
look me up. I'll take care of those traffic tickets for you. Just buy me a 6-pack of beer or something, okay?
That's good.
I guess, I mean, it's It's a tough question. It's a very good, thoughtful question, but maybe why should people vote for you over Greg, or what's so bad about Greg? And to that, there's nothing wrong with Greg. Democrats can't go wrong in this primary. I've met Greg a couple times. He's an amazing dude. He'd be a great advocate for the 15th district down in Jeff City. So I'm happy to run with him, not against him. And I'm happy that the 15th district will be good in good hands, regardless of who wins this race.
Thank you. Greg, is there a question you wish I'd asked you?
Yes, but I want to say to Ken, I appreciate it, and the feeling's all the same. I know whichever way it goes, the district's going to be in good hands. And I tell the same thing to people on the doors when they ask if I'm in a primary, and I said, yep, and it's another good Democrat. So it's nice though, because it means we're going to be all right. But what I was kind of hoping you would touch on that you didn't was some voting rights issues. And also, I know this was more for the primary, and this amendment will be on the general election ballot. But the initiative petition process, and just the little backdoor ways that they're trying to change things so that either some other constituents have essentially more of a vote than others do. And that's what the whole thing with the congressional districts is. If it's a majority of the congressional districts plus certain percentage, a higher percentage of the voting population, you're giving some of those conservative, mostly conservative congressional districts more of a vote than you would say the folks that live in a more democratic congressional district. But on the same lines, we need to be making sure that our ballot language and what is put on those little descriptions of those amendments is truthful and not twisted around to try to mean something that it isn't. And so I think we need to definitely make a concerted effort to focus on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now it's time for your 2-minute closing remarks. And I want to personally thank all of you for joining us. It's been a very, very nice and productive forum this evening. In addition, we'd ask that you share the League's website with voters and encourage all citizens to vote in each and every election. Our democracy is precious. So now you get 2 minutes, and we'll start with Ken.
Well, again, I'm just, I mean, you watch the news and you think Democrats and Republicans hate each other and Americans can't get together and talk about the issues, and forums like this prove that wrong. And this was just a very productive conversation, and I'm happy that the forum put it together and the other candidates showed up, and the other candidates didn't show up. But yeah, no, I'm running because I am a Democrat, and I'm tired of seeing Democrats get their rear ends kicked down in Jeff City. Democratic issues run statewide, and they usually win statewide with 65% of the vote. So I think Missourians are politically progressive yet culturally conservative. And I feel like if we get Democrats who can lock down Democratic voters and appeal to Republicans at the same time, we can start winning elections again. It was recently, I think as 2016, there's 6 statewide office holders, and I think we had 5 of the 6 in the Democratic Party. Now we have 0. I want to go down there and advocate for progressive issues, but also work with my friends on the Republican side of the aisle to pass some bills that will have a positive impact on Missourians. I think a lot of politicians on both sides of the aisle right now, they serve their own personal best interest, not the best interest of Missouri. And it's a circus down there. It's chaos. We're a first-class state, yet we operate like a third world country. And I think we need public servants down there who serve the best interests of Missourians and focus on what is going to help out Missourians and their families. And I want to do that.
Thank you very much. Todd?
Yeah, first of all, just again, thank you so much for having us tonight. This was a great opportunity to just get our faces out in the public and people to hear our hearts. Yeah, I'm proud to be a Republican. I'm proud to have those conservative values of faith, family, and future. And I know those aren't just solely Republican values, but, I know that, I will uphold, those values to, till I die. Protecting our First and Second Amendment rights. I'm pro-life, to the gill, and, we'll, in that issue, when it comes to that issue, I believe that life of that baby starts at conception and deserves some protection. And so that's why, I'm pro-life and think that baby should be protected, from this time of conception. And so, my heart is to serve the community. My heart is that we need better representation in the 56th district. Right now, we do not have good representation at all. He doesn't show up. He doesn't represent us. And that's what got me into this race. Like Pam said, we had a big issue with the landfill right next door. And now we have another issue with data centers going in Peculiar that will totally change the landscape of Peculiar. And property rights are a huge issue. And we need to make sure we're protecting the property rights of our citizens and making sure that they have a say and a voice in what goes next door to them. And so that will be the next big issue coming up in Cass County, and one that I will be very interested in getting involved in. But thank you for having us today. And I just hope everybody goes out and votes August 6th. It's important that you get involved. So many times the fringes vote and then the middle is left with choices that they don't like. So everybody get out and vote and make your voice heard on August 6th.
Thank you very much. Pam?
Yes, I want to thank you again for having us all this evening. And I'd really like to extend my personal thank you to Todd for showing up. Compared to the other two candidates who we don't know where they're at. I really appreciate you showing up tonight.
Thanks.
And you're very welcome. Todd and I really don't know each other that well. And I think we learn a little bit about each other each time, we have the opportunity to speak. But one thing that is very clear is our difference of opinion on reproductive rights. I am definitely pro-choice. I was also born to an unwed mother. My grandparents raised me for the first 4.5, almost 5 years of my life. And I was fortunate enough that my mother married a man who adopted me and brought me out to Belton. So I owe eternal gratitude to my father. And he's a union man. He's a sheet metal worker, retired. And that's where my union loyalty, I'm a union baby all day long. My grandfather was a union man as well. I have uncles, cousins that are military and union. So it runs deep and runs strong. But when it comes to pro-choice, it's because I think women have the right to make that choice. That doesn't mean that they use abortion for birth control. It means that they need to make their healthcare choices. My mother made that choice, and she was a student at UMKC. Now, whether it was rape, it was incest, or it was a bad Friday night is irrelevant to anyone else. It was her choice, and my grandparents stepped up and raised me, and I will go till my last dying breath fighting for women's choices on that issue. As well as I want to clarify something that was stated earlier, that real estate tax question that was asked, that law has already been passed in the state. And that's already in effect for Cass County for our district. People are already taking advantage of that. And so we need to be prepared on the shortage that's going to come up. And as far as data centers, I built those for
Pam, I'm really going to have to stop you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You.
And Greg, you want to bring us home? Unmute.
There we are. I'll do my best.
Okay.
No, I think I'd like to close with just a thing that I have learned, relearned and experienced firsthand with the unions when we're negotiating our contracts. Of course, we're fighting for ourselves, people that are doing the jobs now and those kinds of things. Truly, our main focus is what about the people that come behind us? Once I'm retired, hopefully, what happens to the people that come behind us. And I think where we as a country and as a state have gotten away from is we focus too much on either our experience and that, well, I may have had a bad experience with something, or it may have been difficult for me. The struggle was there. So this person is okay to do the same struggle. Well, my mindset is more of, I would rather somebody not have to struggle the way that I may have had. And so I kind of liken the government to the way we go about our union contracts. The government should be there to make sure that the next generation doesn't struggle like the current generation or generations before had to do. Government should be there to improve the lives of its people and improve the lives of the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all very much for a really very nice evening and a nice forum. I'm going to turn things back over to Anitra.
Thank you, audience, for your interest in the August 6th primary election. A recording of this forum will be available on the League's website, lwvkc.org, and on YouTube. Please take a minute to share our forums via your Facebook, Nextdoor, and other social media channels. We have one coming up for the Cass County area Senate race next week. Please take a moment. Okay, I've got that. And remember, for voting and candidate information, visit lwvkc.org and vote411.org. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good night.
Thank you so much for all your work, and thank you, candidates. We're just doing a wrap up now, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Is the recording stopped, Janelle?
Here we go.